Today we're turning skinny jeans into straight or wide leg shorts. You will need skinny jeans, scissors, pencil or sewing chalk, pins, ruler, a sewing machine or needle and thread, and optional but super useful, a seam ripper. Put on your skinny jeans and determine how short you want your shorts to be. I measured it to be about mid-thigh. Mark with a pencil or sewing chalk the desired length and cut the jeans. What I did was marked it slightly when I was standing, and then I laid it flat on the ground to measure and mark fully all the way around the pant leg so that I would know where to cut 360 around the leg hole. Here I am cutting along the line that I just marked, and you'll have the shorts and then two legs. Now you're going to want to cut along the two side seams and the seam along the crotch. And I would recommend seam ripping the two sides because there's a lot of special stitching that makes sure the pockets stay intact, and then you can use scissors to cut along the main crotch. I would also recommend you do this part with the pants inside out so that you can know where the seam and the stitching are. Now I'm using scissors to cut the crotch open, and I'm also going to remove that bulky fabric strip that just occurs when a thick seam is sewn. I am just yapping away in this footage, but basically maybe you can see that the crotch is now open and there's no bulky seam attached to either side. I moved to my desk to seam rip the other side, and I don't know why I didn't work at my desk earlier because my back really hurt on the floor. But anyways, here we are seam ripping away, and just be careful around the pockets. You don't want to rip any holes. And I say the seam ripper is optional because you could do this with a pair of scissors, but it would just be more difficult. So pick and choose your own battles. So now we have the pant fully deconstructed. Both side seams are open, as well as the bottom crotch. You just have that. And now we're gonna fill all three edges with fabric. I have my two legs of leftover fabric here. Then now I'm gonna cut along the seam just so that I can have two flat pieces of fabric to measure and work with. If that footage wasn't super clear, basically you have two jean legs that you're going to cut along this dotted red line marked, and they will become two flat pieces of fabric that you can then cut other shapes out of. And we'll be cutting a rectangle and two trapezoids out of this fabric. Ultimately, the rectangle piece, which is represented with brown color, is going to patch the crotch area, and the two trapezoids will go on the left and the right side to patch the side pieces. Here I have my shorts again, and I'm gonna put the two crotch sides together so I can measure the length of that, which will become the length of our rectangle. For reference, I'm gonna use this light purple color to indicate the length of the crotch seam, which will become the length of our rectangle piece, and my rectangle piece ended up being 14 inches long, while the width of the rectangle is 3.5 inches long. Mine measured 14 inches, so I cut 14.5 inches by 3.5 just to be safe. I have my shorts here again, and I'm gonna pin the center of the rectangle to the center of the crotch seam and just match both sides, and then pin all along the edges so that the rectangle perfectly matches. With your crotch piece marked out already, now you'll want to measure your trapezoid pieces. So measure the length from your hip down to the bottom of the short, and that'll be the height of your trapezoids. Mine turned out to be 13.5 inches. And the width of the long edge of the trapezoid was 6 inches, while the width of the short edge of the trapezoid was 0.75 inches. So here I am cutting away, and notice that I also only put the trapezoids between the seams, not on the seams. It could be a style choice if you'd like, but I just didn't want the seam in my final product. So now we can get to pinning the trapezoids to the shorts. And we're pinning the small end of the trapezoid up top at the hip and the bottom of the trapezoid just at the hem of the pant. And I would recommend doing the top first because I make sure to always cut the trapezoid a little longer, but you know, the top is the top, and you want the top to meet the two edges on either side so that you don't have a gap right at your hip. Now's your chance to turn your pants right side out. Try it on just to see if everything's fitting, and if it is, then you are welcome to sew. You're going to sew all your new panels of fabric to the pair of shorts, which is indicated along these orange lines. All right, and now you can try them on and just make sure they fit again. Yay, you're almost done. Now we just need to hem the bottom. Now, before we hem the bottom, I am just taking my scissors and cutting off wherever there's an uneven edge. Because there are so many panels coming together, I think it's kind of inevitable that some edges don't meet. So just making sure that the bottom line is straight before I get to sewing. So I turned my pants inside out, and now I'm just gonna roll the hem up twice and sew all the way around. And when you're done sewing, you can flip the pants inside out and try them on. And yay, you basically have a new article of clothing for free.